Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network, presented by Whelen Engineering and also brought to you by Hercules Tire. I'm Hannah Newhouse, joined always by my co-host of Kyle RIckey. And Kyle, over the weekend, the ARCA Menards Series visited one of their shorter tracks on the circuit as they headed to Toledo Speedway for the Hribar Potato Chip 200. Still one of the more interesting names that we get in the ARCA Menards Series for names, but to no one's surprise, it was the weekend of Ty Gibbs. Qualified on the pole, won the feature, making it his third ARCA Menards Series win of the season, 11th career win since 2019. I think at this point, we all just assume, unfortunately, that Ty Gibbs is going to be the winner at these ARCA Menards Series events because he is very hard to beat. And Corey Heim, close there on that second place finish.
He was, but not close enough. And we said at the beginning of the year, I think in Daytona, with the quality of team that Ty is with, obviously tied in with Joe Gibbs Racing, he could sweep the year. And he had his issues in Daytona on the final couple of laps, getting past for the lead, and then nobody working with him to get back to the front, and then crashed out at Talladega. But on these races that aren't on super speedways, he has won. We won at Phoenix, he won at Kansas, and now he won at ARCA's home track, Toledo Speedway. Led 153 of the 200 laps, so dominated the day. Corey Heim second, Nick Sanchez third, Jesse Love and Thad Moffitt rounding up top five. But gonna be hard to beat Ty the remainder part of this season, no matter where they go, including Charlotte this week.
Yeah, Corey Heim still does lead those points, though, over Ty Gibbs by 17 points. Brett Moffitt there in third, 42 behind over Nick Sanchez and DL Wilson. And also some more news out of the ARCA Menards Series garage. Taylor Gray was involved in that car accident just a few short months ago. Released a video of him walking, does have a boot on, but posted that he's excited to be back on his feet and continue the road to recovery. So definitely sending some good thoughts towards Taylor Gray on his road to recovery and getting back behind the wheel of a race car. And we also want to send some thoughts and prayers to the families of Boris Yurkovich and David Fretz. They had a scary crash over the weekend at the Berlin Speedway in one of the late model division events. So sending lots of good prayers their way. I know the short track family was concerned over the weekend as we continue to see updates and progress reports on both of those drivers. Some news north of the border, though. We try to keep you guys up to date on what's going on in our NASCAR National Series or International Series, and it's been quite the adventure over the past 365 days. And as of recently, the NASCAR Pinty Series has announced that once again their schedule continues to be in flux, with a lot of places north of the border still in lockdown, and that has now affected the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series date, which has been canceled and moved to Darlington the weekend of September 4th and 5th. And that will also, again, we usually enjoy going up there, Kyle, north of the border, one of my favorite trips every single year because we get to hang out with our friends in the NASCAR Pinty Series, and the Canadian race fans are some of my favorite, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. The race fans and the race teams and drivers in that garage. I mean, they are always a blast to have on the show. So much character and personality. And man, they've had it tough over the last year or so. They ran 6 races last year, 3 doubleheader weekends. I think they were single days, 2 races in a single day with no fans allowed. And unfortunately, restrictions continue to be in place in Canada and I believe all the provinces. And they're delaying the season now until at least August. It was supposed to open up this past weekend at the Sunset Speedway in Innisfil, Ontario, Canada, but that's going to be pushed back at least a couple of months. And unfortunately, our doubleheader weekend with the NASCAR Camping World Trucks moved as well. That race going to be run at the Darlington Raceway on the early afternoon before the Southern 500. So look out. It's going to be a big doubleheader day of racing there, Labor Day weekend. Here on the Motor Racing Network.
Yeah, well, we have seen that the trucks do put on a good show at Darlington, so glad that was one of the areas where those Truck Series drivers landed. One of the series, though, that hasn't had any trouble kicking their season into high gear now is the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, as they now head to Jennerstown Speedway this up-and-coming weekend for the Jennerstown Salutes 150 presented by DGV. Pretty cool race event this up and coming weekend, Kyle, as they've partnered up with Operation Vet Now. They're going to be honoring those that have lost their lives serving the country, as well as those that are still suffering the effects of serving the country. And they've also have appearances by Gold Star family members. They're going to be racing with the decals of those lost veterans on the windshields. Every driver has been paired up with a family who has lost a loved one. And we're going to talk to the promoter or the general manager of Jennerstown Speedway coming up in just a little bit. That is Bill Hribar, about what to expect this up-and-coming weekend as well as the season for Jennerstown. But this is something that I love about NASCAR and the family that we have here and how we choose to respect and honor those that have served our country, Kyle.
Yeah, and the modified teams are going to do a great job in honoring those folks. And you mentioned a different promoter this weekend. Josh Veneta is going to be working with the racetrack in Bill Hribar in promoting the event. Josh, forming a promotion company about a year or so ago, promoted a couple of events last year in and around all the COVID-19 stuff. And now he's promoting his first NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour race. And he made every event special when he promoted races up here in the Northeast, most recently Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park in Connecticut. And I expect we're going to get that same type of quality, and no doubt we'll get that same type of quality this weekend for the NASCAR Whelen Modifieds at Jennerstown Speedway. So can't wait to watch it live on NBC Track Pass this weekend.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, though, we're going to dial up General Manager Bill Hribar to talk about what to expect this up-and-coming weekend with the Jennerstown 150.
Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights. Whelen also produces white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on-site to meet the toughest industry certifications. Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, trusted to perform since 1952.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTires.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTires.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
It's a busy weekend, this up-and-coming weekend for Jennerstown Speedway, and we're joined now by the general manager of Jennerstown Speedway. That is Bill Hribar, who joins us here now on NASCAR Coast to Coast. First off, Bill, thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy week here prepping for race weekend to join us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. We're excited for this up-and-coming weekend. Again, the tour visited Jennerstown last year for the first time in almost 15 years. They're back this year on the schedule and this up-and-coming weekend for the first time this season. How excited are you to have the tour back in your racetrack, and what can fans expect?
We're absolutely elated to have them back. They produced two stellar events in 2020. The first of which I think a lot of people forget was actually the first race of the season for the Tour Mods last year. It was without fans. We had to run it on a Sunday with the COVID protocol or whatever. They did not disappoint. It was fantastic. It was the first time there in 15 years, as you mentioned. And then we had them a second time in August. And what a side-by-side race. Came down to the end between Dave Sapienza and Craig Lutz. And it has just built the momentum moving into 2021. So we were excited to have them. And then working with Josh at JDV Productions, who actually will be promoting the event for this weekend, what they have in store for Memorial Day weekend is just above and beyond you'll ever see at any short track in the country. So we're just excited for not only the racing, but the festivities and events that's going to take place.
You mentioned Josh Veneta, of course, a longtime staple up here in the Northeast, has overseen a lot of different series and racetracks, most recently the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park here in Connecticut. How did that relationship come together with him and you guys at Jennerstown?
Well, actually, the modified tour director, Jimmy Wilson, reached out to us about scheduling for 2021. And we were definitely obviously interested in hosting another race. And we just felt we needed a little bit of help. The Speedway, we've actually are only in our 7th year of the current ownership group. We have 3 wonderful owners, and I've been kind of calling the shots for them. And I have a full-time teaching job that is concluding here at the end of this week. So it's a lot to overtake a full racing schedule, let alone events of this scale and this caliber. And we felt we needed to partner up or team up with someone that can bring a lot to the table. And Josh was definitely the person to do so. He's leasing 2 other speedways this year as well. And the partnership has just been wonderful. The communication's been great. He brings a lot to the table with his team and I think our team. And we've actually partnered up with a local veteran organization called Operation Vet Now that I've worked with in the past. And between the three of us, we are really, really proud with what we're ready to put together. And, I've always said you meet some of the greatest people in racing, and I haven't even met Josh face to face. I'll meet him here this Thursday, but the relationship and the communication we've had, I think this is going to be a partnership well into the future.
And we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the show with the drivers honoring veterans on their cars over the weekend. But I want to ask you here, Bill, you talked about it. You also have a teaching job. So you've had to overcome all sorts of adversity over the last year because teaching and racing both heavily impacted by COVID-19. But this season, to be able to get back in the swing of things a little bit, how much of that is a sigh of relief, and how excited were the fans to be able to, as well as the drivers, really get back to some sort of normalcy at the racetrack?
Well, sometimes you have to live through and persevere through the hardest of times before you can enjoy the best of times. And we've had record fan counts over the last 3 weeks that we've raced. We've had 21 weekly late models at our racetrack, which is just phenomenal. It has just grown, and it has humbled a lot of people. Everyone says, I don't know how you do all this. The easiest thing, part of my job, is race day because I have so many people to help. So we have a great team. It is a breath of fresh air to be back outside, breathing that fresh air, and being back at the racetrack. And the fans, the racers, the different series we're dealing with. I mean, this will be the first NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour in over a year without COVID restrictions. It'll be a full pit. Mask won't be required unless you're in the hauler. So it is going to be a interesting moment for everybody to get back to what we were so used to knowing and loving.
You kind of touched on my next question a moment ago. You guys have opened the season already 3 weeks ago. 21 weekly late models. Other than that, how's the racing been? And who are some of the early favorites to watch here as we get to the month of May?
Well, it's been fantastic. Our Martellus Pharmacy late model division just 7 years ago was averaging 9 cars. And we went with a certified crate package. And here we are. We've almost doubled, tripled that, so to speak, with cars that are registered. And putting everybody on the even playing field, putting them on a great American racer, McCreary Racing tire, is really leveled the playing field. We've had 3 different winners in 3 weeks, and there's 6 other guys that we can expect to probably win here this season. So starting spot and things like that. But, you have the favorite, the all-time winner at Jennerstown Speedway, Barry Audi. He's a staple to the community. He just picked up a win 2 weeks ago. He's one to watch. Young Albert Francis, who was our 2020 late model champion. He hasn't picked up a win yet. I know he is eager as anyone to get back into victory lane at the Speedway. So the late model's great racing, but so are my other divisions. We have a Stoystown Auto Record Modified, which is an E-Mod division, crate class. Great racing. And then we started a new division this year. And, right now may not be, in some people's eyes, the best time to start a new racing division at a racetrack, but we came up with a 602 Pro late model class. And basically, we decided that we needed to create a stepping stone between our support divisions, our street stocks and our modifieds, to let these guys transition to late models, as well as an avenue for our late model teams to sell off their equipment as it becomes antiquated or older and they want to upgrade. So we created this 602 late model class, and we've already had 9 cars compete, which for, just from conception, 9 cars, we're absolutely thrilled. And we just had a finisher, a young man, 14 years old, Will Heminger, who's actually the grandson of one of the owners. He's a 3rd-generation driver. He's the first one in that division to double up. He's won 2 of the 3 races, made a last lap pass within the last 100 yards of the finish line Saturday night. Our crowds have been absolutely amazing and interactive this year. So the racing we're producing, I would put it up against anyone in the country right now. And we're working on the process of eventually getting a live stream up, because we had a really bad accident here this past Saturday with a late model driver, Aaron Van Fleet, barrel rolled about 6-7 times down the backstretch. If you visit us on our Jennerstown Facebook page, Jennerstown Facebook over 100,000 It's been viewed over 100,000 views. So we have the attentions on Jennerstown. We have maybe not for all the right reasons. Maybe not for all the right reasons. A great racing product. We're producing a great racing product.
And that attention continues to grow again with the return of the modifieds last year. Also with touring series like the Cars Tour, I actually get the opportunity to come up there and hang out with you guys. With the Cars Tour and their big super late model race, I believe over 4th of July weekend. So I'm looking forward to my first visit at Jennerstown. My first visit at Jennerstown. But when the last 2-3 years would you say has been that key moment of getting these big touring series back to your racetrack, getting these large-scale events, and ultimately bringing that attention to Jennerstown.
I think the main word that comes to mind is consistency. We've been very consistent. We've been very consistent. Many years ago, everyone said, many years ago, everyone said, we were only going to do this rules and change this rules. This rules and change this rules, and stayed consistent with the path that we chose, with the certified crate program to build with within. When the car counts grow, the car counts grow, fans grow, the car counts grow. We've got guys that haven't raced, and we've got guys that haven't raced in 15 years going back into the cockpit to race. It works hand in hand. It works hand in hand. Great relationships. You build these great relationships with Josh, Jack, and it was just announced here earlier this week. Josh Berry is going to be racing the Cars Tour race. He's going to be racing the Cars Tour race. We're not just tracking series. We're not just tracking series. We're tracking Jennerstown has one of the richest histories. Jennerstown has one of the richest histories in the country. The first race was 1929. So we're approaching the anniversary here in a couple short years. This place has just really evolved. This place has just really evolved. And my owners are making, we just installed brand new Musco LED lighting, on the front stretch facility, the rest of the remaining of the year. So when you make improvements, you treat people right, you're going to have successful seasons. You're going to have successful seasons, and we're just lucky to have great group and having tours to do this, and having tours like
a month into your season, the NASCAR Modified Tour, of course, you mentioned, and we've been talking about this weekend. Hannah mentioned the Cars Tour. What else is coming up this 2021 you guys? I saw the All-Star Monster Truck on your schedule. I love it. So and they're bringing Jurassic Attack. I think a tour that. So what else is on the tour for you guys this year or on your schedule?
So we also bring up Stock Car Series, which is the old Pro Cup Series. We bring those in 3 times a year. Also, the ISMA Super Modified Series is going to return September 11th. Huge following at the Jennerstown Speedway. Didn't have them the last couple of years. Switch things up, bringing them back. Really special day, September 11th. And then August 6th and 7th. This is my bread and butter event that we built from the ground up, similar to what we've done in the late models. We developed the Motor Mountain Masters. It's a $10,000 pro late model race. Last year we had 36 drivers from 12 different states. It is just produced one of the best 150 late model races you can see. We live stream it on TV. So anybody in the world can see. As Hannah mentioned, I'm a teacher. I had a student based in Okinawa, Japan, watch that race live stream. So we're really proud of that big late model race. But we have a bunch of other stuff for our local guys and things. These big special events, the Whelen Modified Tour, and getting back to what we're doing this weekend with the opening ceremonies. It is going to be like Charlotte Motor Speedway, only at Jennerstown Speedway. There's a 21 gun salute. There's taps. There's bagpipes. All these drivers are carrying names of the fallen heroes. It is an emotional roller coaster for myself and Josh. We text each other all day long, like, "Hey, look what Doug Covey just put out. Look what Justin Bonsinger just put out." What the drivers on the Whelen Modified Tour have done to embrace what we're trying to do this weekend to honor these veterans is above and beyond anyone could ask for. Even Whelen itself, to be able to give up their decal on the windshield to honor those fallen veterans. This is going to be an event that people are going to be talking about for years.
Definitely looking forward to watching it this up and coming weekend again. Available on NBC's Track Pass if you guys are interested in watching that. And if you're in the area, please go out to Jennerstown and support that racetrack. Bill, again, we know you're busy this up and coming week. We'll let you get back to it. But again, we appreciate not only your commitment to the Modified Tour, but short track racing as a whole. And we're looking forward to watching your season this upcoming year.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
The general manager of Jennerstown Speedway. For this up and coming weekends, Jennerstown salutes 150 with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we've got your Whelen Engineering Modified Spotlight.
Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights. Whelen also produces white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on-site to meet the toughest industry certifications. Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, trusted to perform since 1952.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Back here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, time for this week's Whelen Engineering Modified Driver Spotlight. And this week we feature a driver in the SK Light Modifieds up here in the Northeast, a third-generation driver, 20-year-old Salem, Connecticut native, Alexander Pearl. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kyle.
Third generation, you've already accomplished so much, which we'll talk about here in a moment in a modified, but let's go back to the beginning. Your dad, Jeff Pearl, your grandfather, Jerry, longtime drivers in the modified division up here in the Northeast, championship winning drivers, race winning drivers. How did you get your start? Obviously, you were kind of born into it, probably didn't have much of a choice, but when do you remember going to the racetrack for the first time?
Yeah, both my mom's side and my dad's side both came from racing families, so I was definitely born into it. I started going to the track probably when I was 1 or 2 years old, watching my dad race at the Waterford Speed Bowl. Honestly, I never really liked racing until I was about like 10 or 11, and my brother was in the Wild Thing kart program, and I saw how much fun he was having, and so 2011 is when I first started in the Tiger B program.
The Wild Thing Kart program, a Monday night program at Stafford Motor Speedway up here in Connecticut, features, I think, 4 or 5 different types of karts and classes. So you jump into karts. How much success did you find, and how long did it take you to get comfortable behind the wheel?
So I ran one race in 2011, and just to get some seat time, and it did not go that good. I think I finished like last or something. I remember getting out of the car after practice and I was bawling my eyes out because I was getting lapped in practice. So I've definitely come a long way. The next year after that, we ran the full season and won a couple races. And then the next year we moved up to the junior outlaw division and raced with a bunch of people that I race with now on Friday nights. And we ultimately won a championship in the junior outlaws in 2014. And that was like the start of everything for me.
Was the goal always the modified? I mean, obviously, grandfather, dad, both had success in that division. I mean, was that always your goal? And if it was, when did it become your goal? How far into your career did you say, yeah, I want to end up in a modified?
Yeah, when I first started out in go-karts, I was like, well, if I do this for a while, that's fine. But when I started winning, and then I went up to Monadnock Speedway, ran the Young Guns division, which was my first time behind a full car, and when I started winning in that and then moved up to the mini stocks the year after, I knew that, okay, I'm good at this. Maybe someday in the near future, I can move up to the modifieds and follow in my dad, my grandfather's footsteps.
How long did it take you to get, first off, when did you get behind the wheel of a modified? I mean, it's been, a couple of years now?
So the first time I drove the modified was at the end of 2017. I was running for a championship up at Monadnock Speedway in the mini stocks. So we knew by then that the plan was to run Stafford the year after. So just to get some seat time, did a couple practice rounds on Thursdays at the Speed Bowl, and then moved up and ran the last 2 Friday night shows at Stafford. And we were I wouldn't say we were fast or anything. We were mid-pack. We avoided a bunch of wrecks. And my first time out, I got a top 10, which I thought was really cool. And that was like when the modified bug really bit me.
So you started in for full fendered stock cars for the most part. Mentioned mini stocks at the Monadnock Speedway. How was that transition going from a full fendered car to an open wheel car and an SK Light Modified?
It was definitely a huge transition. There was a lot of things you had to unlearn from the mini stock. It really underpowered and the tires are very narrow, and just learning how to drive them and then going to the modified where you hit a wheel with someone else's wheel, it's not good. So it's the whole style of racing is different, and I'm glad I moved to the modified so young and I didn't learn too many bad habits, and I think that's really what was the hardest part for me.
For those that don't know about the SK Lights at Stafford and up in the Northeast in general, but mainly at the Stafford Motor Speedway, I know it's hard, but can you describe how competitive that division is? I mean, I feel like it seems to get more and more competitive each passing season.
Yeah, it's crazy how competitive all the divisions are at Stafford, really. I mean, they don't call it the show for nothing. So I thought after running the mini stock, I thought we would find a little success my first year in 2018. And we sucked. Like we really sucked. And just, it's so hard. I mean, this is my 4th division full time in the lights, and there's still so much I have to learn. And just week in and week out, it doesn't matter who moves out of the division. Someone else fills that place of being a contender, and it's really something. And I think it really provides you with a good knowledge for the rest of your racing career.
Couple of weeks already into the Stafford season, and a couple top 5s, all top 10 finishes thus far. How would you kind of rate the season in the first month for you and your team?
I'm disappointed. I'm very high on myself. And unfortunately, we had 2 top 4 finishes and a 10th to start the season out. And you look at those and you're like, okay, car's in one piece. But those that know me know how much of a perfectionist I really am. We found some things wrong with the car that were broken, and hopefully we got them figured out. I'd really like to track down some wins. That's the goal right now. And hopefully we can turn our season around and get going.
What kind of advice do you get week to week, or just in your entire career in general, from Dad and Grandpa?
They tell me some advice. They just try to let me make my own decisions, just be smart out there. Coming from a racing family, there's a lot of knowledge behind me, and I just try to use it to the best of my ability. We're a pretty small team, so the biggest thing they tell me is just keep the wheels on it, don't wreck it, so we can race the next week. And that's really what I try to do.
Well, what's the ultimate goal these next couple of years? Are you hoping to take the path that we see so much from SK Lights to the SKs, and then maybe to A Tour up there? There's so many up here. Yeah,
I would say that's the goal. Right now, whatever my future holds, I'm completely fine with. Right now, I'd love to move up, but there's still so much I have to learn in the SK Lights, and I'm having fun. That's the biggest part of it. And I would like to move up some point in the near future, probably tour type, something like that. I'm more of a 100-lap driver than a 20-lap driver. And but we'll see how it goes, and I'm having a lot of fun.
And you've done some of those long distance races in full fendered stock cars this year. I mean, is that a potential future, more than, what you're doing now part-time?
Yeah. The guy I'm driving for on the Granite State Pro Stock Series, my dad used to drive late models for him back in the early 2000s and 2010. So that deal came together last year, and I just love driving whatever I can. And just the fendered and the full fendered Pro Stock division, it's a completely different ball game. And I just have fun every time I go out there, try to learn, keep the wheels on it. And I just love to learn, Kyle.
And you're learning they say seat time's everything, and every passing lap and every feature under your belt. I want to thank you for joining us here on our NASCAR Whelen Spotlight, and best of luck to you this year, rest of the season at Stafford, and look for the run for that first championship.
Thank you, Kyle. I really, really appreciate you having me.
Alexander Pearl, SK Light Modified Driver at the Stafford Motor Speedway, this week's Whelen's Engineering Modified Driver Spotlight.
Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights. Whelen also produces white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on-site to meet the toughest industry certifications. Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, trusted to perform since 1952.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTires.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTires.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Over the past weekend, a lot of short tracks across the country were fired up with many divisions, and those, of course, produced many winners. The Cars Tour headed to Caraway, where it was Justin Johnson over Deke McCaskill and Caden Honeycutt. Langley had their local late model stock car division. Danny Edwards captured the victory over Greg Edwards and Connor Hall. Lacrosse hosted double late model features. It was Brent Kirchner in the first one and Steve Bachman in the second. And Dominion, of course, hosted their late model stock car division. No one surprised, Peyton Sellers collected that 60-lap victory over Doug Barnes and G.R. Waldrip.
At the Seekonk Speedway in Massachusetts, Dave Darling picked up the Pro Stock checkered flag. The Sportsman Modifieds ran at the Monadnock Speedway up in New Hampshire. Todd Patnode picked up the win over Corey Plummer. At the Tucson Speedway in Arizona, in the Pro Stocks, it was Ron Cyril. And in the Modifieds, Bryce Bonnet picking up the win. Their next event, and I'm not sure how they came up the name with this, called the Icebreaker at the Tucson Speedway in Arizona in the middle of June, on June 5th. It's going to be a race to temp race. So that means if it's 102 degrees that day, the feature that night will be 102 laps for the super late models. Pretty cool. I'm not sure there's going to be much ice. At Kingsport Speedway, the late models ran on Friday night. Joey Trent picked up the win, his first win at the track in a decade of running there. They're back in action this Friday night. And Ryan Millington swept both of the features at the Hickory Motor Speedway in the late models this past Saturday. They're back in action this coming Saturday. And we are about a week and a half away from the return of racing to Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They got the okay to go at 100% down there in North Carolina in June, and they're going to take full advantage of it. The first Saturday night available, June 5th, the Hayes Jewelers 200 for the Modifieds, first event since the late summer months of 2019. So can't wait to see the Modifieds back at Bowman Gray here in just over a week's time.
And it's so crazy to think that it's been that long. And you know that race fans and drivers alike up there are frothing at the bit to be able to go racing there. And honestly, I know that there was a lot of talk about if Bowman Gray made the right call amongst the drivers and fans to not race last year. But if you've never been to Bowman Gray, not having those grandstands absolutely packed, I feel like takes away 3/4 of the experience of Bowman Gray. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm so glad so many drivers and fans are going to get the opportunity to go back there when they open their season back up. Also, again, when you're listening to this, this was released on Wednesday, the 26th. Tonight is night number 2 out at Millbridge Speedway for the $1,000 to win HMS Patriots Shootout. That is micro 600s that are racing out there. Also, this upcoming weekend, continuing the open wheel trend, the Little 500 at Anderson and Carb Night Classic at Lucas Oil. We talked to Cody Swanson about that last week. He will be competing in both of those. Also captured one of those victories this past weekend in a late model, I believe I did see. And then also, of course, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour at Jennerstown for the Jennerstown Salute 150. That is Saturday at 1:15 p.m. You can watch all that on NASCAR Track Pass or NBC Track Pass if you're doing so. Kyle, Ricky, you will be at Stafford Motor Speedway. Again, I am still on board for you of just renting out part of the press box.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Kyle, Ricky Corner.
Going to be a busy weekend. Race program on Friday night at Stafford. You mentioned the Modified, 7:15 Eastern Saturday night. And don't forget the ARCA race here on the Motor Racing Network from the Charlotte Motor Speedway on Saturday afternoon. So going to be a busy day of racing. And of course, you know, Sunday, the Coca-Cola 600 after the Indianapolis 500. So there's a lot going on this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be on that ARCA race as well as that truck race Friday night on the Motor Racing Network. So again, best of luck to all of the drivers and teams this up-and-coming weekend. If you're a fan and able to get there, support your local short track. We want to thank Bill Hribar for joining us here talking Jennerstown 150. I'm Hannah Newhouse for Kyle RIckey, producers Craig Moore and Ryan Horn. We will see you guys next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.